The show tonight at the Damon Dash Gallery is a collection that I've done of floral collages. They're kind of like kaleidoscopes in their symmetry, but yet in the same token they're actually asymmetrical, just like flowers. Like if you look at a flower, you feel like it's symmetrical, but I put a lot of asymmetry in there to really capture the essence of flowers. All of the names, as the subject matter is converted to a floral name, and I'm looking like I'm probably going to publish a whole book of these florals. And they're basically body parts that have been manipulated digitally to create kind of an ode to Georgia O'Keeffe in a way. It's like they're part kaleidoscope, they're part floral, they're obviously sexual in connotation, and you know they're designed to be viewed in a very large image. So tonight they'll be in 30 by 30s, but doing a show in LA in a few months that'll be 60 by 60 on canvas, and that's how I believe they should, you know, appropriately be shown. And it's kind of one of those pieces where the more and more you look at it, the more and more the connotation of the content becomes apparent, and you can kind of discover hidden nuances within the imagery. And the overall experience should be very similar to, you know, just looking at a flower. You know, it's like the whole idea is to have a certain kind of aesthetic balance, but then a certain kind of, you know, inner sensual quality that resonates from it. But when I was designing the work, I was trying to have three experiences. The original concept is the work will be displayed about the size of this glass, you know, doors here. And so when you're across the gallery, the first thing you should notice is the floral pattern. You should get a sense of the shape, and that should draw you in to say, oh, it's a flower. And then as you move a little bit closer in the three experiences, once you get to a size when you're looking at it so that it's basically in your eyesight, you should then be able to realize that all the petals are body parts, and that's where the sensuality is expressed, because there's all kinds of legs and body parts and breast, and that's when you realize that, okay, now this is a collage, a kaleidoscope of body parts that are expressing, you know, the sensuality of the flowering of springtime petals. The third experience, when you come up really close, it's kind of like that's when you have a Where's Waldo moment, because from afar you just see a flower. From medium you see that it's a collage of body parts, but then when you're really close to the image, that's when you see all the little hidden nuances, all the hidden components that you would say, oh wait, I see this body part, I see this head, I see these different, you know, aspects that I would have never noticed from across the room. And so that was the idea behind the image experience. And then of course, running with the theme and of the sexual content of the sensual content of the show tonight.
Great.
By CGI. This is kind of the cutting edge. I'm probably the only photographer doing this technique and editorial in the world right now, just because of the expense, but because I happen to be very passionate about the digital media, I'm pushing the envelope as far as anyone possibly can. So if you look over here, what I actually do is in Maya, we're actually creating elements in the computer that are then translated photorealistically into the imagery. So this is a story I just finished for a magazine where I created a chessboard in the desert. Now the thing that's about it is all the desert was shot at one time. I didn't have to bring a whole crew out to the desert, and I shot it with a point and shoot camera. And then in the studio, I shot the model just against white cards with positioning that makes sense. And then I have a 3D artist create the elements that I've taken from miniatures, and I've created digital versions of it. And then in the final translation, that digital version gets put into the image, composited, texturized through Photoshop to make look photoreal. And at the end of the day, the images are placed from a studio into a backdrop with digital components, making the future.
how just show us the same thing again. Like you
Certainly.
take elements. Okay,
Well,
continue.
to define what I mean by fusion and how I create what I see, like people always say, "Are you a photographer?" And I say, "Well, I'm an image maker." I am a photographer. At the core of everything I do is photography, but I'm fusing photography. I took this shot in Yosemite maybe 10 years ago after the flood. Fantastic photo. But when I have to be a visual artist expressing fashion, I'm able to take it a step further and fuse classic imagery that I've taken from around the world, use those textures to create a new digital dialogue that speaks to me in the new medium. It's kind of like my generation is video games. We're 3D artists. We are born with devices like iPhones and iPads that we're constantly on daily. So even though I studied under a great legendary fashion photographer and I've learned to do everything the classical way, and I have books on Avedon, Irving Penn, I've studied the masters and I appreciate everything they've done, it's still a dialogue that goes back 40 years. And when I open up the fashion magazines today, they're still holding on to a 1980s aesthetic with maybe a 1990s, lighting. But at the end of the day, the thirst or the search for something new is always what drives us forward. And this medium, this technology that's in front of us, shouldn't be looked upon negatively. It has to be embraced. And what we've done, or what I'm trying to do, is to find the voice of this medium. And that is through a new palette, a new spectrum, a new, I don't know, it's like an endless possibilities of what you can do with classical imagery that's manipulated through this new dark room to create a new dialogue, a new voice. And that's really what's driving me with what I call fusion. Well, I think there's a big divide in the marketplace between what we consider photography in a classic traditional sense and this new digital medium. And there seems to be this resistance about what the digital medium means and how it maybe is somehow lesser. And this happens with every generation of artists, that they have to confront the the changing times of the media. And so one of the points I wanted to make was I have taken these classic photographs with just a camera and just using the capabilities of film exposure and the limitation of what the camera can create as an image exposure. But at the end of the day, if my voice is this what I call fusion-esque, let's say, aesthetic, that's my voice. So it doesn't matter if my limitation, if I somehow say, oh, but look, I created this with one arm tied behind my back, that somehow makes me more a purist. No, at the end of the day, it's about images. So I've taken these images, and this is, I can say, is pure imagery. It's just camera, exposure, the elements. Nothing done in a computer. If someone wants to say that's pure, that's just an argument of personal belief mechanisms or systems. It's like, to me, at the end of the day, how you create an image is what speaks to you as an artist. So if I choose to create an image through this technique or through a digital technique, it shouldn't matter. At the end of the day, what should speak to somebody is the artistic vision that's being expressed creatively through however you choose to do that. And in my case, I'm embracing the digital media to create my images.